explosion. Tim's news 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 explosion.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tim's News Explosion on this Monday, the 7th of October, 2024. We are live on the Wilmsfront YouTube channel, the Wilmsfront Odyssey channel, and the Wilmsfront Rumble channel. Hello to everyone in the live chats. Peak Aussie Men, great to see you. It is 9 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where the storm clouds have gathered and the rain and wind is tumbling down on us. Though on this week, given that the weather turn began after Melbourne's free speech rally on Saturday at Flagstaff Gardens concluded, it is a metaphor for the threat to free speech that is now before us Victorians. The Melbourne Free Speech Rally was organised by the Libertarian Party of Victoria, primarily against the federal government's disinformation bill, which is still before the Parliament. But last week, Libertarian Victorian MLC David Limbrick informed us that the Victorian Allan Labor government has just released its proposed expansion of the state's anti-vilification laws, and boy, are they bad.
All around the world, governments are implementing new restrictions on speech, and all around the world, libertarians are leading the fight against them. And Victoria has a new fight on its hands. The long-awaited anti-vilification laws are currently going through their third round of consultation. If you'd like to make a submission, you've got until October 11th. They're planning on new criminal offences for inciting severe ridicule or serious contempt against various groups of people. And this is really serious stuff. You can go to jail for 3 years for ridicule. And the government's definition of public conduct is so broad that it includes private property. Does that include your backyard barbecue? And how weird's this? They want to include behaviour that incites hatred or other serious emotions. And the government's actions incite serious emotions in me all the time. If you want to join the fight to defend free speech, then come along this Saturday, 11 a.m. to Flagstaff Gardens. I'll see you there.
Now, David Limbrick, of course, spoke at the Melbourne Free Speech Rally. I interviewed him after the rally. That will be posted within the next week, as will my interview with the Victorian lead Libertarian Victorian Senate candidate for the next federal election, Jordan Ditloff, who at the end of his speech decided to one-up the the smoking of the disinformation bill at the conclusion of the rally, and decided to Javier Milei chainsaw it.
Kill the bill! Kill the bill! Kill the bill!
They burnt the bill in New South Wales, but here in Victoria we Libertarians like to do something else.
Yep. Yep.
Now, Jordan Ditloff has got an interesting life story. A decade ago, he went to prison for embezzlement. I spoke with him after the rally as well. He is still eligible to run for federal parliament, despite serving time in prison, but not for the Victorian Parliament. He's certainly learnt as a libertarian not to steal anymore. I actually knew him over a decade ago when he was still in the Victorian Liberal Party. He said that he's almost more ashamed of that. Somebody said when I said, I knew him from over a decade ago, oh, were you in prison with him? No, I haven't been to prison yet. I could be if these new proposed anti-vilification laws passed. Now, even though it was a Libertarians Victoria organised rally, they also invited to speak Warren Pickering, the Victorian lead One Nation Senate candidate. He also ran at the 2022 federal election. I interviewed him on Wilms Front back then. Also speaking was Dr. Ruben Kirkham from the Free Speech Union of Australia, which he had an British accent. So he sounded like somebody that the UK Free Speech Union had sent over to sort of help get things set up. And also detransitioner Mel Jeffries spoke, because under these proposed anti-vilification laws, telling her story as a detransitioner, somebody could claim to be vilified by a trans person. Now, also in attendance at the rally was exiled Victorian MLC Moira Deeming, who his defamation case against Victorian Liberal leader John Pesciuto continues in the federal court. It is now closing submissions in its fourth week. And also there, I didn't speak to Moira, but I did speak to Damien Richardson. Now, he posted on his socials that he was disappointed that they didn't talk about the threat to Australia from mass immigration. He had no comment about the allegation that he did a Nazi salute at the National Workers Alliance meeting at the Urban Street restaurant a couple of weeks ago, which the business shut down afterwards. He said I was hailing a cab. It's actually quite easy to, because I noticed at the rally, one of the speakers, I can't remember who, said, raise your hand if you've done this. And you raise your hand, because it's in public, and even though there was no counter Antifa counter protest, pro-censorship, there could have been some spies there. There was a member of the Fusion Party there who was there to see David Limbrick talking about preferences. That's an alliance of all of these sort of left-wing civil liberties parties, like the Pirate Party. So when I raised my hands, I was very careful to you've got to do it all the way up straight like this, because there could be some snapparazzi there who will take a photograph of your hand in what do you call it in soccer language, an unnatural position, and could snap that and send it to Victoria Police. Look, this resembles a Nazi salute. So, and when I was waving to, because I saw Damien and Richard in the background, I waved to them, and I was like, oh, I've also got to be careful. You just at any political event in public, you're scared now to raise your hand just in case it's inadvertently interpreted, well, as somebody who wants to obviously try and get you silenced, to try and make out that you've done a Nazi salute. Nathan Swindon said, perfect troll opportunity. I did think to myself that it was also possible that the National Socialist Network could turn up at the Melbourne Free Speech Rally, because obviously their symbols have been outlawed, and as I've just been explaining, their salute And it's certainly would have thrown quite the curveball at Moira Deeming. Given that she's suing John Prosciutto for defaming her as for tarring her with the Nazi brush after the National Socialist Network attended the first Let Women Speak event where Kelly J. Keane spoke at way back in March 2023. Now, Kelly J. Keane was supposed to be a keynote speaker at the CPAC conference in Brisbane, which was held on the same day or weekend as the Melbourne Free Speech Rally. She wasn't denied a visa by the Home Affairs Department and the Minister, Tony Burke, but it just wasn't processed in time. So we didn't cancel her, deny her a visa. It just wasn't processed in time. And they did this shenanigan business with another gender critical activist, Graham Lynham, the comedian who wrote Father Ted, the IT Crowd, and Black Books. So, but Liz Truss, the former British Prime Minister, they'd have quite the nerve, the Albanese government, to deny a former British Prime Minister a visa. Also appearing at CPAC in Brisbane was Monica Schmidt, Nick Patterson, and Topher Field, all Melbourne freedom warriors from the COVID lockdown era. They certainly would have been there if it was on a different weekend. Avi Yemeni was there to cover it for Rebel News, and also live streaming was Auditing Australia. Luckily, as I said, though, there was no, not that we were aware of, any Antifa pro-censorship counter protesters. So luckily it was easy day for Avi Yemeni's security guard, Daniel Jones. He would have obviously earned his coin the next day, because Avi was covering the October 7 Never Again rally in Melbourne, which had a secret location until that time. Now, going to this and calling it alarming, these proposed anti-vilification law changes, it's certainly an understatement. I mean, this is actually frightening totalitarian stuff. So currently in Victoria, we have the Racial and Religious Tolerance Act, which has been in place since 2001. So it has civil and criminal provisions, and the most high-profile person who was civilly dragged through, beginning in the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal, was Catch the Fire Ministries Pastor Deninalia, also leader of the Rise Up Australia Party. It cost him millions to eventually get the decision overturned. He called Islam a violent religion. And luckily, his case was extremely high profile. Even the Prime Minister at the time, John Howard, backed him in. There was not so much widespread coverage or high profile support for the three Victorians who were criminally prosecuted and convicted under the Racial and Religious Tolerance Act, Blair Cottrell, Neil Erickson, and Chris Shortis, for the mock beheading outside the Bendigo Town Hall, Council Hall, in 2015, when promoting one of their rallies against the proposed mosques, which still hasn't been built. So they dressed as in Arabic towels and performed a mock beheading, and then fake blood poured out. So they were convicted and fined $2,000 each. So currently, the word that's used in this Engage Victoria document, which is called Overview of Proposed Anti-Vilification Protections. It's like, remember how they called the COVID restrictions health protections? They're not restrictions. They are protections. William Turner says, my friends went to that protest. Are you talking about the Bendigo Mosque protest back in 2015 or the free speech rally? Is it illegal to slander Christians? Well, reading the law, it should be, but you don't count on anyone being prosecuted for holding a Piss Christ exhibition, nor do I think that a Piss Christ exhibition, somebody who holds that should be prosecuted. So the attributes that are proposed to be protected, and I'll do the commas there just so you know that I don't approve of this language. So I'll still cover race and religion, but include disability, gender identity, sex characteristics, sexual orientation, personal association with a person who is identified by reference to any of the above attributes. So the definition of disability would protect people with HIV or AIDS or mental illness. So does that mean you can't say that liberalism is a mental disorder, leftism is a mental disorder? And the definition of gender identity would protect drag performers. So, and this was one of the reasons that the Labor government was lobbied to expand their anti-vilification laws to ban drag queen story time protests, because remember, I think it was the Monash City Council in April 2023. They cancelled a proposed drag queen story time at the Oakley Library because the National Socialist Network were planning a protest. Because Higgins says, so all gay jokes are now illegal in Victoria, I'm guessing. Well, if it falls under so there's going to be, and it's going to be under the criminal code. So there is the incitement offence, which carries intentional and reckless conduct. So this is where an accused intends or believes that their conduct will probably incite hatred against, serious contempt for, revulsion towards, or severe ridicule of another group or persons. Now, severe ridicule, does that include Ricky Gervais jokes? So what's the difference between ridicule and severe ridicule? And so the threat offense is where an accused intends for the person or a member of that group or person being threatened to believe the threat of physical harm or property damage will be carried out. So the threat offense, it doesn't mean that it's a threat that's going to be, well, carried out, but the person believes that there's a threat. So it's about it's about how the protected group or person in the protected group feels. And this captures online conduct. If there is a link to Victoria, covers, as David Limbrick said, private conduct. So if somebody's offended by a joke at a barbecue, and they could, you could go to jail for a maximum penalty of 3 years imprisonment for incitement, and the threat offence 5 years imprisonment. Currently, under the Racial and Religious Tolerance Act, the maximum term in jail is 6 months. So for the incitement offence, it's a 600% increase in the criminal penalty, and for the threat offence, it is 1,000%. And so apparently there will be a defences for the incitement offence. So the proposed reforms will introduce a defence to the incitement offence only for proposed engaged for genuine political purposes. Now, in the civil protections, so it will prohibit conduct that is hateful, seriously contemptuous, reviling, or severely ridiculing. So, two civil protections, which means that a private citizen who is feels that incitement to hatred or they've been harmed by speech can take civil proceedings at the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal. So the harm offence, or harm-based protection, as it's called, which is a civil in the civil section. So this will be under the Victorian Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Act. So examples that they include is saying hateful things about a person's gender identity at a public gathering. So that clearly seems targeted against Let Women Speak rallies. And so they'll be able to, some trans tifa in the crowd who's offended can run off to the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal. Peacock Simmons said, maybe like all the Aboriginal supremacist crowd might finally see justice for inciting hatred against whites. Well, it's up to Victoria Police and the Director of Public Prosecutions to decide the criminal who was criminally charged. Bruce says, interested to see how they'll apply this law. I can't see it working out well for them. So the civil protections only cover public conduct, but you can still be criminally charged for incitement or threat in a private setting. And look at the photo that they use in this document here. Well, is that by me just laughing and telling the audience, "I'll look at them"? Am I inciting severe ridicule? This law is not going to be retrospective, so you can so severely ridicule is while it's still legal. And so the public submissions close on October the 11th, so at the end of the week. And then there is going to be a publishing of the feedback at the end of the year. And I think they're going to actually then draft the legislation. Now, this could also make illegal these laws, the stories of detransitioners such as Mel Jeffries, who spoke at the Melbourne Free Speech rally. I didn't have a chance to interview her because it rained. I'll be publishing all my interviews. I caught up with Damien Richardson, Richard Wollstonecroft, interviewed a couple of people at the rally, and like I mentioned, David Limbrick and John Ditloff from the Libertarian Party. Mel, she is open to appearing on Wilms Front for an in-depth interview. She, of course, first told her story on 7 News Spotlight's Detransitioner special, and showed her double mastectomy scars. Imagine somebody could claim that she's inciting hatred against them, some trans person, for simply telling her life story. And also, as this document says, it covers any online incitement or threat related to Victoria. So somebody like Sal Grover, who, well, she's already has to pay Roxanne Tickle $10,000 in compensation for breaching the Federal Sex Discrimination Act. She could be criminally charged if she called a Victorian trans woman a man. Well, we have a Victorian, Jasmine Sussex, fired from the Australian Breastfeeding Association for saying men can't breastfeed, and taken to the Queensland Human Rights Commission by a breastfeeding trans woman, biological man, who claims that with enough hormones can breastfeed their child. She's called it, Jasmine Sussex, a fetish. So even though she's a Victorian being dragged before the Queensland Human Rights Commission. Palo Conservative Australian, I didn't see you there. I'm sure that if you were there, you would have come up and said hello. Yes, if you saw Damien Richardson's post, which I summarized before, he was disappointed that they didn't discuss the other threat to Australia, immigration, because we have a lot of those migrants who are demanding permanent visas. They certainly their demands are also that they be respected in Australia. So a lot of these demands are for these anti-vilification law comes from the various migrant ethnic affairs council, and of course for the various Jewish and Jewry organizations as well. Now, Sal Grover, she spoke at CPAC Australia, and she announced last week that she is going to be appealing the federal court ruling of Giggle versus Tickle, because remember that Justice Bromwich said that a biological sex can change. And so I guess this is how when it comes to this proposed Victorian law, how they're going to say that sex and gender identity don't clash. And gender identity will probably include non-binary people. So if you don't call a non-binary person Ziza and Zem, they could take you to VCAT or try and report you to the police. So it's unclear from Sal Grover's statement whether she's going to be appealing to the full federal court or the High Court of Australia. Tomorrow we also have another important judgment. Jacob Hirschner, the first man charged with performing the Nazi salute in public last year, after he and Thomas Sewell had been sentenced for violent disorder after confronting the Antifa stalkers who followed them to cathedral regions in May 2021. In terms of on the face of it, like he raised his arm almost all the way to do a Nazi salute and said "Hail Hitler" and said, "Oh, nearly did it. It's illegal now." But the Victorian law says anything that resembles a Nazi salute. So given that he said "Hail Hitler" and he's an unapologetic neo-Nazi, his lawyer during the magistrate's court trial put through a constitutional defense. So freedom of political communication. So it'll be interesting also if Sal Grover has any luck at the federal at the High Court if she gets there, because, well, it's a political issue, sex-based rights. And isn't it amazing? Of course, we have a sex discrimination act that doesn't actually define sex. Well, Damien Richardson, he said that he was hailing a cab because he was accused in that Herald Sun article of performing a Nazi salute at the National Workers Alliance meeting. There's signs in at the Melbourne tram stops and at the bus stops which say "Hail tram, hail bus" with the hand raised, which what looks like a Sikh hail hand position. So this is the ridiculous thing. You've got signs which say hail, but you've got to do it in a way which doesn't resemble a Nazi salute. Now, as I mentioned before, the conclusion of Deeming versus Prosciutto is in the federal court this week. Last Friday, the federal court was suspended for 30 minutes because a man dressed like a security worker was found in the courtroom with a bunch of eggs. And so the Herald Sun understands the man was heard asking members of the public gallery, where Mrs. Deeming typically sat in the courtroom minutes before the hearing was due to resume out of the lunch break. So that would have been a serious breach of court security if that had happened. So even though closing arguments between by Moira Deeming's legal counsel, Sue Cristano SC, and Dr. Matt Collins SC AC, will conclude this week. It'll take a while for Justice David O'Callaghan to come to a judgment. He was also the justice who found Mark Latham that he defamed Alex Greenwich for his tweet that said he engaged in disgusting sexual acts. So John Prosciutto, he didn't go well during cross-examination by Sue Cristano. He still maintains, John Prosciutto, that he didn't expel Moira Deeming because of her sex-based views, but because of the associations of Kelly J. Keane and Angie Jones that he put in the dossier, which Sue Cristano, Moira Deeming's barrister, said was like an 8-year-old's homework. It was full of errors, and so Prosciutto ended up settling with Kelly J. Keane and Angie Jones and issuing an apology on his website. So given given that there has also been another recording unearthed of John Prosciutto telling off Moira Deeming for her maiden speech for mentioning sex-based rights because Dan Andrews' government and one of his ministers, Danny Pearson, attacked Moira Deeming for calling her anti-trans. So it wasn't about her views, but don't mention your views. And also an interesting witness that Sue Cristano cross-examined was John Prosciutto's chief of staff, former Liberal MP Louise Staley, who herself was a TERF and made statements in support of sex-based rights when she was an MP. But she said, no, it's Moira's reputation was about her other extreme views, such as being pro-life and also being anti-COVID vax mandate and supporting ivermectin. Bruce says, why do politicians love transvestites so much? It's sick. Remember that when Dan Andrews invited the drag performers inside Parliament House, John Prosciutto said, why wasn't I invited? Now, John Prosciutto He in the papers on the weekend said that he is not going anywhere. I think I'm paraphrasing there. We're certainly not going anywhere. Though amazingly, he's ahead in the polls at the moment. Though the Herald Sun, the Age, and 6 News, they have all reported that John Pesciuto could face a leadership spill when Parliament resumes in Victoria next week. He has said, "Bring it on." So we shall see whether they do have the numbers to roll Pesciuto and spill the leadership, because it's amazing that he has survived this long since it took him 2 goes to expel Moira Deeming from the party room. And the fact that he's managed to get ahead in the polls. So the other potential candidates are Brad Batten, the Shadow Police Minister who stood against John Pesciuto after the 2022 state election, lost by 1 vote, and also first-term MP for Nepean and former tennis ace Sam Groth, who is very ambitious. So Sam Groth is a raging lefty as well, and eagerly cast his vote to expel Moira Deeming. Now, if you're a Victorian resident, check your mailbox this week because you should be getting a mail-in ballot for the local government elections. So in Victoria, unlike the local government elections in New South Wales and Queensland, where it's like a federal and state election, you vote in person on the day. And party affiliation is disclosed. In Victoria, it's all mail-in ballot, and party political affiliation isn't disclosed. So you get in your mail-in ballot, you get a pamphlet with all the candidates, and you have to research them. You have to make sure you don't accidentally vote for a Labor, Green, or Socialist. But yeah, mail-in balloting, it's safe, secure, and effective, even though a former Moreland councillor, Maled El-Halabi, was fined $20,000 for tampering with mail-in ballots at the Moreland, now Marybank Council. So it seemed that he had engaged in some taking of the mail and filling it out, filling the ballots out. So we should now. Apparently, this time the mail-in ballots have identifiable barcodes, even though it's supposed to be a secret ballot. I guess we'll sort of see how they work out when we're filling them out. But yes, in the last cycle of local government elections, there was a proven case of electoral mail-in ballot voter fraud. Now, there was some good news for Victorian healthcare workers who chose not to get the COVID jab. They can go back to work, but the COVID vax mandates still exist for Fire Rescue Victoria volunteers. This is what the narcissistic, arrogant power tripper who runs Fire Rescue Victoria, Commissioner Gavin Freeman, wrote to the independent member for Monash, Russell Broadbent, who lost pre-selection for the Liberal Party, is now resigned to run as an independent and is championing those who chose not to get the COVID vaccine, were vaccine injured. He said in federal parliament he cured his COVID in his 70s with ivermectin. According to Gavin Freeman, vaccination is particularly important for Fire Rescue Victoria, given firefighters deliver life-saving medical care as part of the emergency response partnership with Ambulance Victoria. But healthcare workers don't need to be vaccinated for COVID either. So because there might not be enough firefighters or paid or volunteered, and you burn to death in a building, it would have been worse if you'd been rescued and then got COVID, or I don't know how that works. Now, we got some, quite interesting data from New South Wales Health last week, and this was broken on 2GB Breakfast with Ben Fordham. So New South Wales Health data revealed that from 2019 to 2021, there was a 52% increase in people presenting to emergency departments with chest pains or heart issues. So 34,000 in 2020, 52,000 in 2021. So that is a massive jump there. And the next day, Ben Fordham interviewed the New South Wales Health Minister, Ryan Park, who admitted that there's a link between the COVID jab and chest pains, myopericarditis. So YouTube, one of our own health ministers has admitted this. And we've also got a COVID vax injury compensation scheme. So again, it's supposedly the social medias, they censor in a response to lobbying from the government that please take down what we consider disinformation. But it's actually disinformation now to deny that there is a link between the COVID vaccines and myopericarditis. So yes, YouTube, please take that on board. Now, I saw one of the comments back here from was it from Paleoconservative Australian, or the LNP is a joke. Which well, they're not just a joke here in Victoria. They are in New South Wales, where of course they didn't get 140 candidates properly endorsed paperwork for the local government elections that they just had. And then, of course, one of their MPs for Pittwater, Rory Amon, resigned after he was charged with the rape of a 12-year-old boy. Now, over in South Australia, the former Liberal opposition leader, David Spears, he has resigned as the MP for Black after the South Australian police charged him with 2 counts of supplying a controlled substance. And so this is the first leadership test for the new South Australian Liberal leader, Vincent Tarzia, who looks like Nick Cave. I will bring it. This is the new leader, Nick Cave, who looks like Nick Cave, Vincent Tarzia. And this is David Spears, who the Adelaide, so his name is spelt differently from the David Spears, host of ABC Insiders. So it is spelt, Spears is spelt S-P-E-I-R-S. And so the Adelaide Advertiser, the Murdoch rag in South Australia, on September 9, they published a video reportedly filmed inside his home, which was him snorting a white substance. Now, he said it wasn't him, it was a deep fake. I think that he is now the first of many politicians in the future who is going to be caught on video doing something that a politician shouldn't, and saying, that's not me, that's a deep fake. Remember, it used to be, oh, I was hacked. Remember the federal Liberal Defence Minister, Christopher Pyne, who the day after the same-sex marriage vote in 2017 liked some gay porn on Twitter. He could have used at that time with Elon Musk's private likes change. And so he claimed that he was hacked. Now, Christopher Pyne is not openly gay, though there's always been questions. He's a married Catholic father of 4, though pretty much all of his staff who worked for him were gay. Now, there was no actual investigation into that. Malcolm Turnbull at the time said, oh, this is listen to us all to make sure passwords are changed. I remember Corey Bernardi, his old Liberal South Australian factional adversary, said, yes, this is deeply troubling for our national security. We need to know how deep and far this penetration has been. And it was leaked to me the internal probe into Christopher Pyne's gay porn Twitter hack, pardon the pun there, internal probe. And the only way that Christopher Pyne could have been hacked is if somebody took his phone out of his pocket and knew his passcode and went into his Twitter app and then liked the gay porn, then closed the phone and put it back in his pocket. So that's have you ever heard of anyone being hacked like that before? Way back in the 90s, there was a famous Sydney King's Cross corrupt cop, Graham Chook Fowler, who was played footage at the New South Wales Police Royal Commission into police corruption of him accepting bribes. And he said, that's not me. You've got an actor to play my role. So this has been going on for people that've been confronted with, with conclusive proof that they've done something and say, no, that's not what it seems. It's not what it looks like. Oh, so yeah, those are the other two doozies. Bruce says, sounds like my old mate's girlfriend got hacked and the hacker made a profile of her on Tinder. Well, that can legitimately happen. Images are stolen to create a Tinder or Grindr profile. So yes, that's much more easier to do. Now the other Australian election coming up. Oh, well, there's actually the ACT territory election on October the 19th, but nobody's paying attention to that because it looks like that the Labor Greens government, led by Chief Minister Andrew Barr, will be re-elected. But there's the main election that everyone's interested in the rest of Australia, and especially in Queensland, where the state election is taking place on October 26. So incumbent Labor Premier Stephen Giggles Miles, who took over at the end of last year from Anastasia Palaszczuk, and is facing a heavy defeat, though he could actually save the furniture, as it's called in electoral terms, because the Liberal National Opposition leader David Crisafulli is extremely mediocre, a very small target strategy. And he, like other previous Liberal National Party opposition leaders, I I dare not mention the last Liberal National Party Premier, Campbell Newman, who won in a landslide in 2012, 78 out of 89 seats, but of course lost after a single term, which was blamed on spending cuts that he implemented. So Campbell Newman has said they're treating me like Voldemort, dare not mentioning my name. Now, Campbell Newman is in this election campaigning for the Libertarian Party. He stood for their predecessor for the Senate in Queensland, the Liberal Democrats, in 2022. Though Campbell Newman certainly wasn't a libertarian when he was premier, passed one of the most anti-libertarian laws when he was premier, which was much more problematic, in my opinion, than cutting the public service. The VLAD laws, the Vicious Lawlessness Association Establishment Act, which was aimed at breaking up bikie gangs. But it could have been used to break up any form of group, even libertarians. Now, this was repealed when Anastasia Palaszczuk won unexpectedly the 2015 Queensland state election. If that was still in place now, they could have used that. That's another tool that the Queensland Police could have used to break up the National Socialist Network gatherings that occurred on Brisbane and the Gold Coast a short time ago. But one group that is constantly protesting and gathering, that it seems that the police, well, not that I think that they should break them up, but they're very selective in what protests they decide to break up. Now, the Liberal National Party opposition federally, Peter Dutton in Victoria and in New South Wales, they called for the pro-Palestine rallies scheduled for October the 6th, and today, obviously being October 7th, the 1-year anniversary of Hamas's parachute attack into southern Israel, murdering 1,200 people, including at that music festival. There's been wall-to-wall coverage of the commemorations today. Now, it's raised. I'll just digress here for a moment before I get to the local implications. It's still unbelievable that the Israeli Defense Force allowed it to happen. Now, I'm not saying it was deliberate, but it took them 12 hours to move into the kibbutz, which Hamas went and, of course, murdered many Israelis. Took over 200 of them hostage. There's still around 95 hostages remaining. I should look it up to make sure that I get it exactly right. So yes, there's believed to be 101 hostages remaining. Oh, sorry, that was last month. So yeah, I'm just going through here. So going down here, that I can't find. Yeah, the exact number of hostages thought to have died in captivity is unknown, but is estimated to be at least 60. 97 hostages remain unaccounted for, but the IDF believes at least 30 of them are dead. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu, he said that he was launching military operations in Gaza to defeat and disarm Hamas and to get the hostages back. A year later, and not all the hostages are back. Imagine being in captivity for over a year. But the fact that these kibbutzes, as they're called, these townships, were 3 kilometers from the Gazan border. And now, I'm not victim blaming, but why would you live 3 kilometers from a hostile enemy that wants to kill you? I mean, and the fact that this important border, I mean, like if you look at the DMZ, demilitarized zones between North and South Korea, certainly there is no way that North Korea could launch a parachute attack undetected into South Korea. And there's certainly like literally no like towns on the DMZ border in North and South Korea. So I certainly wouldn't live 3 kilometers from people who want to kill me. And now, of course, we have, well, as I mentioned, Benjamin Netanyahu. He's only going to remain in power as long as the war is protracted. And of course, now there's a war on 2 fronts now, with there being IDF operations now in southern Lebanon in response to Hezbollah rocket attacks. And of course, now Iran they've actually launched ballistic missiles into Israel. So their history recently, Iran is just shooting some missiles, knowing that they'd be shot by the Iron Dome, but they actually got they got some bigger missiles now, some more weapons in their arsenal. So Benjamin Netanyahu said that Iran has made a big mistake. Now, I'm at the point now where, like, I just don't care if this becomes a wider conflict. And obviously, of course, I mourn the innocents, the civilians losing their lives in Israel, Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, and elsewhere in the Middle East. But why is our government constantly wanting to play a role, thinking that they can play they can have any impact? And it's all because we've got people here in Australia, and they're useful idiots on the far left who are protesting every Sunday in our major cities, Free Palestine. And obviously, they've imported a lot of Muslims into Australia, who, for them, Gaza is one of their biggest issues. And now, of course, that's the main reason why Fatima Payman, the former Western Australian Labor senator, quit the party and is launching her new party this week. She says it's not going to be a Muslim party, but it's certainly, well, could be a welcome development, because the left-wing vote is being fractured now, because obviously it's not just the Greens now, it's the Victorian Socialists, and there's going to be Fatima Payman's party, and also legalized cannabis. Fiona Patten is trying to make a comeback at the next federal election, running for the legalized cannabis party after she deregistered her Reason Party, formerly the Sex Party. But last weekend, because in response to the Israeli attack in Beirut, which killed the longtime Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah, the Sydney and Melbourne pro-Palestine rallies last weekend, there were some attendees who are carrying Hezbollah flags, which is illegal under the hate symbols prohibition that was passed earlier this year. Oh, sorry, the terrorist, banned terrorist symbols, and also there was a special provision in there for Nazi symbols, the national that are associated with the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Now, the federal police at the time, they clearly didn't know the law. So last Monday, an Australian Federal Police spokesman said the mere display of a prohibited symbol on its own does not meet the threshold of Commonwealth offence. It has to be displayed in circumstances where the conduct involves spreading ideas based on racial spirit or hatred, inciting others to intimidate or offend a person, advocating or inciting others to offend, the spokesman said. No, the law is very explicit and says that publicly displaying prohibited terrorist symbols is against the law. And they backflipped, and so far they have charged a 19-year-old woman for allegedly displaying the Hezbollah flag at a Sydney rally, and the Australian Federal Police have called for information to assist with Operation Advana, they call it. So the images were taken on September 29th, Melbourne CBD. Individuals were suspected of displaying prohibited symbols, including the Hezbollah flag. So let's have a look at them. We don't know their names, but let's certainly put their images out there. And did anyone see Peter Dutton get a question from that ABC journalist? I'll make sure that I look up her name to shame her. So Anusha Sud questioned why Hezbollah is listed as a terrorist organization. And after that, because Peter Dutton said, does the ABC not think that Hezbollah should be a listed terrorist organization? And the ABC later said, no, we fully accept that Hezbollah is a terrorist organization. And of course, the media union, the MEAA, said, oh, he was bullying our journalist. Did they put out a statement when Mark Dreyfus went after Sky News journalist Olivia Casely said, I will not be apologizing for upholding a High Court decision. Do not interrupt. Your question is an absurd one, pointing his finger at her. So yes, again, it's the double standard there. Though I do disagree with Peter Dutton that these pro-Palestine rallies, he believes that they should have been banned on October 7. I mean, free speech, free assembly, in my free speech absolutist view, involves the right to stage protests which are deemed offensive. Now, in the Victorian opposition, it's a shadow Attorney General, another former leader, Michael O'Brien. He advocated that the Allan Labor government use the powers available under the Unlawful Assemblies and Processions Act. The Act specifically makes unlawful any assembly for the purposes of celebrating, commemorating any festival, anniversary, political event relating to or connected to with any religious or political distinction or differences who bear, wear, or have publicly exhibited any banner, emblem, flag, or symbol calculated to provoke animosity between subject religious persuasions. Now, Dan Andrews, the former premier, is probably thinking to himself, oh, that's extra power I could have utilized during the COVID lockdowns. And that was actually John Pesciuto said, "Oh, look, the Victoria Police and the Victorian government shut down public demonstrations during COVID. They should do it here as well." I don't want the COVID lockdowns, shooting of rubber bullets on peaceful protesters to be a precedent on how we should treat the right to free assembly going forward. I do not support a permit system either, like they have in New South Wales, where you have to apply for a permit to hold a rally, because who decides to grant a permit for a rally? A government body. But certainly, I do not like how there's a double standard. It seems that because these pro-Palestine groups, because they have the resources of all of these migrant legal services and the activist legal centre, Victoria Police, the police forces nationwide, I should say, are much more timid. Now I'm going to play David Limbrick again. He spoke about just in full this act that Michael O'Brien wanted to enforce, what full powers it can grant Victoria Police.
Deputy President, I will now literally read you the Riot Act. Our sovereign lady, the Queen, doth command and charge all persons being here assembled immediately to disperse themselves and peaceably to depart to their own homes. God save the Queen, unquote. These magical words, when spoken by a justice of the peace or magistrate at a riotous meeting, afford the powers under Section 5, which I'll paraphrase. If persons so unlawfully, riotously and tumultuously assembled happen to be killed, maimed or hurt in the dispersing, the offenders shall be free, discharged and indemnified of, for and concerning the killing, maiming or hurting of any person unlawfully assembled as foresaid. I am unsure with what's more concerning to me, the licence to kill without consequence provided by this Act, or the fact that upon review, the only amendment the government felt necessary to this archaic power was omitting Lady the Queen and God Save the Queen from the proclamation that allows murder.
Yes, so the enactment of this law actually legalizes murder in Victoria without consequence. I think not even without a Victoria Police professional standards investigation. Now, I saw William Turner say that you can display the flag for educational purposes. That is true, and that includes for the Nazi flag or swastika. There was a man arrested for holding a banner, a flag at the Sydney rally on Sunday, which was the Israeli flag instead of the Star of David with a swastika. Now, in the Victorian swastika ban and under the federal ban, a swastika is allowed to be displayed in public if it's opposing National Socialism. So you're allowed to, in a protest, say that someone's a Nazi, acting like a Nazi, and put a swastika on their forehead or something like that. That's not illegal. The New South Wales law is much more stricter. The only exception is for public interest, which of course that's the ultimate subjective laws. But again, the police don't really know these laws, like they didn't know the federal prohibited symbols laws. There was some on Sunday who brought along yellow flags with nothing on them, which clearly they meant to support Hezbollah with the yellow, but not having the actual symbol on there. It was a loophole there. Does that mean, I wonder what would happen, and again, I'm not suggesting or inciting anything. I wonder if, say, Thomas Sewell or Jacob Hirschnot or Joel Davis went into the public with a Nazi flag, but with a swastika removed, so just a red flag with the white circle. Would they still be arrested? Would that be a loophole, or would they still be arrested and prosecuted? And I noticed that what is that? And also is the Justin Trudeau blackface Hitler meme, is that illegal because it has the swastika armband with the Canadian flag? I remember that Bernie Finn, he when he dressed Dan Andrews up as a Nazi with a Hitler mustache, he replaced the swastika with the ABC logo. Is that still permitted? Yeah, so swastikas are permitted for religious reasons for those subcontinent religions, so they are protected. Now, when we were talking about the changes to Victoria's anti-vilification laws, where we see anyone charged with anti-white racism, it is now being confirmed that the violent assault against a 9-month-old baby in Brisbane back in August, baby Luca, he is known, in Hanlon Park. So the Queensland police didn't tell us that the suspect was a Chinese national who poured the hot coffee, and baby Luca suffered horrific burns, could have lifelong scarring, but thankfully is back to being a happy baby boy. But certainly it is something that's not just physically scarred him, but also scarred his parents. That has now been confirmed as an anti-white hate crime. And maybe if Queensland police hadn't been so worried about not mentioning his ethnicity and actually apprehending him before he fled to China, then he might be facing the court. Now, according to one of his friends in China, he wanted the suspect revenge on white people after he was denied another visa. Well, I'm glad he was denied another visa, given that's what he's capable of. And remember, this was just a random baby that he came across on the street, an innocent little child, and saw that he was white and poured the coffee on him. It's one of these things you wonder just what is happening to not just our countries, but the West. Over in the UK, just recently, there was a 14-year-old girl who threw acid on 3 people outside a school, the Westminster Academy in Westburn Park. So a 16-year-old boy was injured, as was a staff member, and a 14-year-old girl who actually has been named Tegan McFarlane has suffered potentially life-changing injuries and needed surgery following the attack. So a 35-year-old man has now been arrested on suspicion of causing grievously bodily harm. So it seemed to be just a random attack. So fled on electric scooter and was described as of dark appearance. So it wasn't a white native Brit. William Turner says, how easy is it for white Australians to get a visa into China? Why would you want to go there? That's the thing. It's a communist, a social credit surveillance state. Now, I'll just stay on UK news for a moment, because the Starmageddon continues. So this week, two-tier queer Starmer, he has lost his chief of staff, Sue Gray, after it was revealed that she was earning more than him for just being his chief of staff. Now, you may remember Sue Gray before she became Keir Starmer's chief of staff. She wrote the Boris Johnson Partygate report. Now, Boris Johnson, promoting his new book, Unleashed, is attacking Sue Gray over her Partygate report, even though he described her at the time as outstanding civil servant, and he couldn't possibly mention anything about the parties at Downing Street during lockdown until Sue Gray had done a report. Apparently, he couldn't even confirm whether he'd taken a shit in the morning unless Sue Gray wrote a report about it. Now, last week, Keir Starmer lost one of his own MPs, Rosie Duffield, who was one of the only Labor MPs to stand up to the trans agenda. It was outspoken TERF. She has now quit the Labor Party. And obviously, two-tier queer is been nicknamed that as well. Two queer Keir is what he's been named. There's a lot of puns here because of his many stays at Law Wahid Ali's London penthouse, including giving a lockdown address there. He wasn't staying at his home, staying at someone else's home, and also when he did his first press conference for the death of the Queen. Now his most recent press conference was about the Hezbollah attacks into rockets into southern Israel, saying that we stand with Israel in a time of need. Israel has a right to defend itself. We think he was in Downing Street, or was it Lord Ali's apartment that was just dressed up to look like Downing Street? I mean, who knows these days? And Talk TV's political reporter Isabel Oakeshott said there's long been stories about that Keir Starmer's family structure is not as it's seen. So apart from giving him free access to his penthouse, Lord Ali also gave Keir Starmer £35,000 worth of clothing and spectacles. So yes, Keir Starmer's wife, Victoria Alexander, she only accompanied him, I think, on a couple of occasions on the campaign trail. His children are never with him on the campaign trail. So I guess maybe because what could be revealed, he can't be accused of basically misleading the public, showcasing his wife and kids when it's not all it seems, deceiving the voters. So yes, certainly his wife and two children, they are certainly at arm's length. And Iron Duke says Lord Ali is as bent as 9 Bob. No, well, he's bent in two ways. Bent as in, because that's slang for homosexual. I guess using that slang will be illegal in Victoria very soon. But also bent as in, crooked, corrupt. He is under investigation by the House of Lords for not disclosing all of his finances. Dan Wootton, who's now independent outspoken, has also revealed that he saw himself as a bit of a kingmaker in the Syrian civil war on the side of Bashar al-Assad. He is quite the contradiction as a gay Muslim, seemingly having loyalty to a country where his lifestyle is illegal. So Keir Starmer has paid back £6,000 worth of the freebies, and this includes 6 Taylor Swift tickets, 4 tickets to the races, and a clothing rental agreement with a high-end designer favoured by his wife, Lady Starmer. And he is now going to write a code of conduct about in the future about rules on MPs receiving freebies. So yes, now that he's basically, now that I've been caught, I'm going to right this wrong. I'm going, which is it's a typical thing of politicians to sort of spin. Now, Keir Starmer not only receives, but he also gives. He has decided to unilaterally, without holding a vote in Parliament, or without holding a referendum, to give away the United Kingdom sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, which is an island country. It's in the Indian Ocean, sort of in between the Africa and the subcontinent. That's sort of where it's roughly located on a map. And so David Lammy, of course, well, he's not the first black foreign secretary. I guess he's the first fully black foreign secretary, because, of course, the conservative leadership aspirant, his name escapes me suddenly. Because that's the longest reality TV show, I think, of all time, the 2024 Conservative Leadership Party election. James Cleverly. See, I couldn't even remember his name. James Cleverly, he was only half black when he was Foreign Secretary. So David Lammy is fully black, and of course the descendants of slaves. So he said this will strengthen our role in safeguarding global security, shut down any possibility of the Indian Ocean being used as dangerous illegal migration route to the UK, and guaranteeing our long-term partnership with Mauritius. And so there has been, I know that David Clues of Unity News Network has had constitutional law experts on exploring whether this is actually legal for the Prime Minister to just unilaterally give away this piece of the United Kingdom. I remember that Gough Whitlam unilaterally in 1974 gave away the territory of Papua New Guinea. And, well, if you look at Papua New Guinea 50 years on, it's a third world shithole, and Port Moresby is one of the world's most dangerous cities. So they would have been better off as a territory of Australia. And now, also on Keir Starmer's agenda is the assisted dying euthanasia bill. So a Commons vote is it looks to be taking place before Christmas, maybe so they can start euthanizing old and lonely people at Christmas. So we don't know what the final form of this bill, but of course Canada is the model for the euthanasia extremists, which now allow the mentally ill to decide to end their lives. And of course you have Belgium that allows child euthanasia. So remember that the COVID lockdowns were about protecting the vulnerable, saving the NHS. Now, the NHS is going to be about killing the vulnerable. So, again, it's going to be a long 5 years for the people of Britain, because they have 5-year terms, it's absolutely way too long. And so, yes, Starmageddon, it'll continue to get worse. Who knows? And of course, Keir Starmer, it'll eventually be reported what his big dirty secret is. Paleoconservative Australian, do we really want PNG? Well, are you saying then maybe we should give away Alice Springs, make Arnhem Land fully a foreign territory, just see how the Aboriginals who go in running that as basically, well, they run these Aboriginal native title places as communist places. So again, they're only staying afloat due to all of their Australian taxpayers' money there. But I guess why not have them as we could have a 2024 experiment to see, because obviously PNG is the Papua New Guineans. They are Melanesians, like the Torres Strait Islanders are. Now, moving on to the US election news. And did anyone watch the vice presidential debate on CBS News between Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, and Kamala's running mate, Tim Walz? Of course, J.D. Vance, senator from Ohio, and Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. And Vance absolutely blitzed it. A nail wiped the floor with Tampon Tim. And of course there was, now JD Vance, he is, I think, really coming into his element now. But when he was announced as Trump's running mate at the Republican National Convention, just after Trump had almost been assassinated at Butler, Pennsylvania by Thomas Matthew Crooks, he sort of didn't know. He was quite awkward on the campaign trail. Just didn't quite know how he was going to fit with the MAGA crowd. There, of course, he is a lame Diet Mountain Dew is going to be racist next. But I think he's found his role, and that is to basically communicate MAGA policies in a non-Trumpian way, in a more, you'd sort of say, more traditional politician speak way. And he certainly has set himself up to be the MAGA successor. And his ultimate gift is, like, when he's confronted by some mainstream media journalists, Trump spreading misinformation about Springfield, Ohio, the Haitians eating the dogs, eating the cats. He brings the temperature down a notch and rationally talks about what is going on in Springfield, Ohio. Now, obviously, I, of course, love that Trump is Trump, and they're actually a good team together. Trump is the ranter and raver at the campaign rallies, the entertainer, and then JD Vance is there to basically put everything in sort of short, sharp dot point form. So they are a good team, and even Saturday Night Live is now mocking a Kamala Harris. A comedian, Maya Rudolph, her Kamala Harris impersonation is absolutely spot on. Now she is actually half black, Maya Rudolph, which Kamala Harris, she claims to be half black. She's half Indian, though Candace Owens has been doing some investigation into the Harris side, where there is a lot of white Irish in there, including slave owners, and so Kamala could be more of a incognito. Now, that was actually, before anyone has a go at me for saying that, that was actually a joke from the Nightly Show, the Daily Show spin-off with Larry Whitmore. One of his contributors said about the fake blacks like Rachel Dolezal, as they're called, incognitos, which was a funny pun, and then said, hey, wait a minute, Larry, your skin's kind of light there as well. How do we know that you're not an incognito as well? So that was when like Daily Show and its spin-offs were actually funny, and we're actually seeing now Saturday Night Live actually being funny again. And some people are saying that things must be bad for Harris, Waltz, and Biden if Saturday Night Live is mocking them. And certainly the actual polls, not the ones that are pumped out by some obscure university department that has never been heard of before, have Trump ahead in the swing states. And because the mainstream media continue to memory hole that Trump has now been almost assassinated twice, the first in Butler, Pennsylvania, way back on July the 12th, where if he didn't turn his head at that exact moment to look at that illegal immigration chart, then his brain would have been blown out on national television. And then, of course, there was the second assassination attempt at Trump's own international golf club in West Palm Beach, Florida, and the suspect, Ryan Wesley Ruth, wasn't shot dead by the Secret Service like Thomas Matthew Crooks was, and actually did have an extensive online footprint as a Ukrainian mercenary. And the FBI actually released a letter when they formally charged him, which it said that discussing his failure to assassinate Trump and offering $150,000 to whoever can complete the job. And shortly afterwards, Ryan Ruth's son, Allan, who had previously defended his father in an interview, was arrested after authorities discovered hundreds of child pornography files on Orange Ruth electronic devices and charged him with 2 counts of possessing and receiving child sexual abuse materials. So yeah, that's the father-son scumbags. So Trump on Saturday evening returned to Butler, Pennsylvania, and it was a packed event. And the Secret Service, they managed to get on that dangerous sloped roof there, the counter sniper team. And Elon Musk, the owner of X, came on stage with a what is being called a dark MAGA hat, and said that Trump needs to win to protect free speech and democracy, the First and Second Amendment.
If people don't know what's going on, if they don't know the truth, how can you make an informed vote? You must have free speech in order to have democracy. That's why it's the First Amendment. And the Second Amendment is there to ensure that we have the First Amendment. President Trump must win to preserve the Constitution. He must win to preserve democracy in America. Yes.
Now remember that the Democrats, while they're impeaching and charging Trump, they say that we're doing it to save democracy. Well, they don't also claim to defend free speech. John Kerry admitted recently, the former Democrat senator, 2004 presidential candidate, and Secretary of State for Obama, said that the First Amendment is it gets in the way of what we want to do. So yeah, they absolutely have no respect for the Constitution at all. They of course, for years the Democrats have been going after the Second Amendment as well. And now there has been a horrific hurricane that has gone through North Carolina, Hurricane Helene, and there are communities white MAGA voting communities, who have been completely abandoned by their federal government and by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. Now, remember, it basically led to the decline of the Republican brand from 2005 onwards, when FEMA under George W. Bush failed to respond in a timely manner to Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. Now, the media was all over that, but strangely silent on the white MAGA North Carolina voters, who they're cut off from early voting as well. Now, of course, the North Carolina Republican gubernatorial candidate Mark Robinson, his campaign is in disarray after CNN published screenshots from purporting to be from him from a porn forum where he called himself a black Nazi, was pro-slavery, and transgender porn. So clearly the Democrats want to win North Carolina. Now, FEMA has been the emergency that they have been using funds for is services for illegal immigrants. And now Biden's press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, who I say it in the way that Tucker Carlson did on Fox News. He always said Karine Jean-Pierre, of course, is a Haitian, born in Haiti. And I remember I made the joke last week. I wonder if that's illegal in Victoria now, that maybe she ate Joe Biden's dog in the White House. It wasn't taken away because it was biting people. So she's denied now that FEMA funds were basically, you should call them misappropriated. from actual federal emergencies like hurricanes to supporting illegals. So we've got the side by side here.
It's just categorically false. No, Biden did not take FEMA relief money to use on migrants. So FEMA regional administrators have been meeting with city officials on site to coordinate available federal support from FEMA and other federal agencies. Funding is also available through FEMA's emergency food and shelter program to eligible local governments and non-for-profit organizations upon request to support humanitarian relief for migrants.
And that's not a deep fake. Don't use the David Spears defense, Karine Jean-Pierre. So yes, she said both things a year apart. Now, of course, although Maya Rudolph's Kamala Harris on Saturday Night Live is hilarious. Of course, the real Kamala Harris is actually hilarious, though it will be scary if, heaven forbid, she is elected president of the United States. In that case, the United States is finished as we know it. She had a teleprompter malfunction, which stopped on when she said 32 days until the election.
Remember his number? 32. Today we got 32 days until the election. So 32 days. 32 days. Okay, we got some business to do. All right. 32 days. And we know we will do it. And this is going to be a very tight race until the very end. This is going to be a very tight race until the very end. We are the underdog, and we know we have some hard work ahead.
And of course, Joe Biden infamously on his teleprompter gaffes were end of quote, repeat the line, pause. They were basically Biden and Kamala, the anchor man woman co-hosts like from Anchorman the movie. Somebody should have hacked in to the teleprompter like what happened in the original Anchorman movie with Will Ferrell, Ron Burgundy, and Veronica, I can't remember her last name, played by Christina Applegate, and had seen if they would read out from the teleprompter, "Go fuck yourself, America." Would they actually read it out if that was in front of them? Maybe Biden would, but he's actually, I think, improved ever since, maybe because he's unburdened by what has been running for re-election. He actually held a White House press conference in the briefing room, and he was actually pretty coherent. And so, yes, he's. I think it's improved his condition, being unburdened by what has been. Now, with the North Carolina a hurricane lack of federal government support, there have been obviously a private charities and religious groups turning up there, but they're being turned away by federal government officials. Apparently, they don't. I think it must be to stop them from voting. Oh, you can't give them food and water because then they might find their way to a polling booth. I mean, it does seem to be as blatant as that. Either why would you deny donations of private food and water? Glenn Beck here from the Blaze, his charity Mercury One was turned away from providing relief. So it's all very bizarre. Now, before I go, maybe I've gone over time, but we should provide a brief a diddler update. And when I talk about a accused pedophile's nonsense on this show, I'm going to play this sound.
I'm getting the word nonce.
And that is, of course, Clinton Baptiste from Phoenix Nights, the psychic played by Alex Lowe, who tells people what they don't want to hear. Now, there have been more disturbing allegations against Sean Diddler Combs, including abusing a 9-year-old boy and spiking drinks with horse tranquilizer. So an attorney in a civil action by his victims, Tony Bazibi, 120 victims have come forward. So that is, raping a 9-year-old boy, that, wood chipper. Obviously, we've seen the disturbing footage of him having custody of Justin Bieber for 48 hours. That was disturbing enough. Some are saying that Justin Bieber needs to come forward and tell his story. But in my opinion, that's up to Justin Bieber to tell. I mean, he is thought to be a victim of the diddler, and I think it should be his story to tell, just like it should be Leonardo DiCaprio's story to tell if he was molested by that dialogue coach, Brian Peck, who sodomized a Drake Bell at Nickelodeon. Well, that seems like quite a horrific note to end on, but again, we cover the news, no matter how disturbing, alarming it is, because sadly, this is the world that we live in. It's full of war, murderers, monsters, pedophiles, lots of evil people. But I'm still an optimist. I still believe that there's so much good in humanity. Humanity has the potential to be extremely good and extremely evil. That's because us humans, we are the only beings on this planet who have the ability to reason. So we do have choices that we can make. And I certainly choose freedom and peace and prosperity. So that's all for Tim's News Explosion for another week. Thank you so much for your company and your contributions once again. Now, if you want to support the work of the Unshackled, there are multiple ways to do it, because I can't bring you all these shows, Wilms Front interviews, cover things out in the field without your support. Like obviously Avi Yemeni, the reason why he's out in the field all the time, he does it full time for Rebel News now. I'd certainly love to do that. So you can support us at the unshackled.substack.com/subscribe. So there is monthly $5 per month, annual $50 per month, founding member for $500 per year. There is an Unshackled membership, which we still have the unshackled.net. So I still use the unshackled.net for Unshackled articles, while the Unshackled Substack, that is for emailing Unshackled production alerts and has the archive there. So bronze $5 per month, $50 per year. Silver $10 per month, $100 per year. Gold $25 per month, $250 per year. Platinum $50 per month, $500 per year. And so I'll put that into the live chat. Now, of course, I continue my weekly appearances on New Zealand Reality Check Radio on Paul Brennan's breakfast program every Tuesday morning. So I'll be on air tomorrow morning with an Australian Wilms report. Due de Boer, my former Trad Tasman Talk co-host, hosts the dialogue now on Monday, every Monday from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. New Zealand time, which if you're in Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time, like I am, it is 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. And of course, there'll be more reports from Tiger Mountain with Richard Wollstonecroft. I published one about his two queer tier, which we have seen unravel post the UK riots. And of course, I've got my chat with him at the Melbourne Free Speech Rally. So I'll be uploading those throughout the week, the interviews that I mentioned. And I will also be back out on the field on Saturday in Melbourne for the annual March for the Babies. Which is held on the 16th anniversary of the Abortion Law Reform Act of Victoria, which legalised abortion up until birth. Bernie Finn, former Liberal MLC, is the president. So that begins at 1 p.m. from Treasury Gardens. They tend not to march to Parliament these days because Bernie Finn can't get access to it, as it's more difficult for him to get access to it since he's not an MP anymore. Now, the pro-abortionists, they are holding a pro-choice and proud street party outside of Parliament from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And so that is organised by mine and Avi Yemeni's nemesis and stalker, fat cunt Christopher Johnson, so former sex party candidate. So it's a pro women's choice rally organised by a man. Again, they have a go at men for being pro-life. So you've got your pro-abortion rally organised by a single man who he isn't even with a woman. So yes, I hope to see some of you on Saturday. Ben Shand, the Dusty Bogan, is coming down for the March for the Babies. So we'll be catching up, and watch out on the Unshackled channels for a more coverage from the Melbourne Free Speech Rally. Remember to subscribe to not just the Wilms Front channels for live shows, but also the Unshackled channels, because that is where I upload all of our video reports. So subscribe, click the bell for notifications, give a like, thumbs up, comment below, and share, because it all helps with the algorithm. Good night, everybody. Stay safe, stay sane, stay optimistic, and stay warm, because it's cold again in Melbourne. Summer soon, please. Good night.
Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.